indeed, my name is Arnaud Bernaert. I'm managing the health security solution unit of SICPA. I've been with SICPA for a little bit more than a year, and I'm managing this practice that is really focusing on drug authentication and supporting governments in the preparedness and detection of epidemics. So there's two pillars of the work we're doing. For the previous 7 years, I was with the World Economic Forum. I had the chance, Yelena, to work a lot with Seth Berkley. I was also a member of the ACTE Accelerator Steering Group and the Infuse program. So I love what you're doing, and what you have accomplished over the past 2 years is really phenomenal. I applaud your efforts. So moving on to what we do at the World Economic Forum. I will take two examples because I cannot boil the ocean of the full life science space, obviously, today. And we'll focus on where some technologies could accelerate some of our strategic programs. So a little bit about SICPA. It's a very old Swiss-based company based in Lausanne, born in 1927, really immersed in the field of printing, because if you think about the core business, it's really about securing banknotes, where more than 90% of the security inks, multi-layer protection of banknotes, is being produced by SICPA in contracts with more than 180 governments and 35 joint ventures with governments. That's really the main business that has been evolving since the Second World War. And from this part of the business, and based on this secure printing capability of SICPA went into supporting the same governments, same ministries of finance in the collection of excise taxes. And this is where you talk about marking products such as tobacco, alcohol, and you name them. And more recently, 20 years ago, SICPA went into the field of health security solutions with the product marking of pharmaceutical products for securing the authentication of such products. So two priorities, and I will go through the two fields of work, and we'll tell you a little bit what we need in terms of innovation. And this afternoon, my great colleague, Roberta Cirio, will go into the technology details of where those solutions could take place and the type of shapes they could take. So thinking about the problem itself, it's a little known, but actually more than 1 million people are dying every year from this plague, that is the criminal activities from counterfeiting networks. And you're talking about nations being very, very impacted, mostly so in Africa, East Asia, and LATAM, where actually those drugs, and we need to talk about vaccines as well, actually are fake products. And at best, they are placebos. At the worst case, they may be rat killers. And people are dying of that. They may even be suffering a chronic disease, and they can be on drug for 20 years. And in 40% of the cases, in some countries, to think about DRC, for instance, in the context of antibiotics, in 40% of the cases, those drugs are going to be ineffective or fake or lethal. So this is what we need to address there. Obviously, from a digital supply chain monitoring standpoint, a lot of progress was done, because you have seen efforts such as printing serialized numbers on those drugs, GS1 codes, you name them. But those codes, actually, they can be copied. Or vials or boxes can be reused when they are empty. So that's where we are strong believers of the connection between the physical supply chain and the digital supply chain monitoring. So digital supply chain is like you're monitoring the digital twin of your physical product, but at all times you need to compare and reconcile the data that have been accumulated by the two products as they progress at every step of the supply chain. So that's what we're doing. We have solutions, visible, invisible. Those solutions are meant obviously, to make for manufacturers, our customers, they make field testing in many instances, and they can check invisible features on a label with special readers. But from time to time, you need also a visible feature because you want the practitioner or the patient himself or herself to be able to check the authenticity of the product. So visible features. Now, the problem we face is more often than not, you need also forensic evidence. And labeling the secondary packaging of a drug is not going to provide you with forensic evidence of the fact the product has been falsified. Second to it, more often than not, organizations like the Global Fund, for instance, would fund large financing programs for TB, malaria, HIV drugs. And those drugs would come in bulk. So you don't have a packaging. And when that's the case, you need to be able to control the substance itself of the drug. It could be the surface of the tab, the coating, the formulation, the ingredients, the way the physical pattern of the drug, little marks on the drug are being unique in a way. Every drug is unique. If you look at the microscopic level at its physical pattern. So that's where we need new solutions. Some of them do exist. We think about, for instance, you can check the physical pattern of a drug with near-infrared spectrometry. Can deploy that in the field. Dissolution profiles with bioacoustic resonance can be innovated, but more promising than any other technologies is where we are fascinated with the opportunity of actually marking the tablets or the fluid with DNA. And I'm not going to elaborate further on that. Obviously, you would need readers, you would need decentralized testing, but the technologies for reading, such as nanopore technologies, are such that you can have readers in the field. And the moment you are actually encapsulating in a drug fragments of DNA that are representative of a unique authentication signature, then we think this can be a game changer for this industry, and it could be a very high barrier to raise for counterfeiting criminals. They will not be able to replicate that. So that's point number one I wanted to touch today. Again, Roberta will discuss the details of that opportunity in the afternoon. Next to it, this is the mess we have been in. This is the mess we have been in for more than 2 years. You know, in good faith, many governments have taken measures that, with hindsight, were not necessary, were coming too late, too early, or were simply not effective. And liability to governments is huge in that context, but the impact on population is even greater. We need to find solutions to actually detect those epidemics earlier so that actually treatments can be innovated faster, and also that responses can be tailored appropriately. So that's what we're building at SICPA. Our solution is a health crisis management cockpit. We are accumulating data from government authorities on the right side. This shares those data. I mean, it's like, for instance, health system capacity. And we are also analyzing 500 of sources of public data every day to actually detect every week more than 4,000 signals, which we qualify into 20 events, which we monitor for another 3 weeks. That's public data, but this is not sufficient. From time to time, you need to do additional testing, okay? And what we've been doing is actually a lot of focus on testing the wastewater in community areas and from planes. So at this point in time, we have already tested wastewater from 350 planes in the Arabic region for COVID, Delta, Omicron, influenza, and we find a lot in this data. You would be amazed to see the number of flights that turn positive when actually passengers are fully compliant. Full vaccination scheme, 72 hours negative PCR test, and yet the plane is positive. When you test those planes, and we've done that with partners in Marseille, actually, you can find up to 20% of the passengers being positive with antigen test. So those protocols need to be repaired, okay? But this means that we need to acquire data, okay? And the cockpit will work only to the extent we can find novel ways of acquiring data, because the problem is you need to acquire data in a very decentralized fashion, and you need to analyze the data in a very decentralized fashion. Okay, you cannot always rely on a central lab in the US when you are in Senegal or when you are in Uganda, right? Or it takes too long, you know? So you need in the field analytical methods to be implemented, and that's where Roberta will also cover some of the instruments that could be done. Novel sensing technologies to be applied to fluid, the air, surfaces, and we're really talking about miniaturized devices for lab analysis, lab on chip, biochips, and we do strongly believe that those technologies can formidably accelerate the relevance of the data being captured in support of governments. Because again, this is our market segment, is to sell solutions to governments in view of helping them protect their populations. Thank you very much.